Hey, this is Frank the Pest Geek, and we're going to be discussing about difficult mosquito control. Again, here's a container on the back side of the property that's been left, and you can see there's water there. Well, that's several hundred mosquitoes that you can breed there just on that. Tipping it over isn't enough. You're best to remove it if it's still going to cup water somewhere. Here you got a hot tub that's not being used, that the cover is not sealing it, and there is tons of water in here where mosquitoes are breathing. So you can be spraying all you want for mosquito, unless you're treating this with a larvicide. There's mosquitoes flying all over in there, out of there, which they've been breeding, and I'm seeing them all over the place. But unless you're going to treat that every 2 weeks with an IGR or a BTI or Spinosad or some type of larvicide, you're going to breed mosquitoes. If you're just spraying an adulticide, it's not going to control it. As you can see, this is a very, very small backyard. It's not a large backyard. There are no apparent breeding sites on here. There's no gutters on top. It's lawn and shrubs where the mosquitoes breeding. Well, they're breeding in all the sites I just described to you, because this property is not that large. And if you've got a neighbor up to 300 feet away which has the same issues, this is how people are breeding mosquitoes, and they're wanting mosquito control when it can't be done because of certain habits people have, or misinformation, or just plain ignorance about how mosquitoes breed. And there's nothing that you can actually do in a small property like this, spraying it, to really get a lot of mosquito control. As you can see, it's just shrubbery, and that's it. And you're in the front door, and immediately you look to your right, and what do you see? A bromeliad right near the front door. But they're breeding mosquitoes right near their front doors. You can see in there, I'm going to show you, there's the water. And you're going to breed hundreds of mosquitoes right near your front door by having a bromeliad right there. Underneath, you can see there's, try to zoom in on that, there is a paper wasp nest. And I'm going to show you how we're going to remove that. We simply got our little pole, and our pole, and let me shrink this here. We got just our pole, and our pole has the little scraper in the front, and we're just going to take it right here and just go up here and basically just remove it. Well, kind of stuck on the side there. Turning it a bit. And there you go. It's already dead. We just removed it. Okay, so you're at the back of a house. There's the fence for the next door neighbor. There's probably 5 to 6 feet between these houses. And you have here a bromeliad plant. And inside that bromeliad plant, if we go in and we go in there, you're gonna see the little worms? That little worm right there. Get a little bit, see if I can get a little bit closer. Alright, most likely that's an Aedes aegypti mosquito larvae swimming in there. So the next door neighbor sprays for mosquito, and he can't figure out why they still have a mosquito. Why? Because they're being bred right next door to him. And that's the challenge we have as a professional pest control management, that there are things that we can't control. So his grill, let's say, is right there, or he's next door, which is probably his, you can see the wall right there, and there is mosquito being bred right next door to him, and he's spraying. But we'll come over here a little further down, and there's another bromeliad plant, and there's another bromeliad plant, and we're coming down here, and there's another bromeliad plant, 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 and here's another one, and there's another one, and there's another one. Oh wait, we got a bird bath that isn't being attended to, and we're gonna get mosquito in there. There's one, there's another one, there's another bromeliad, there's another bromeliad, and there's another bromeliad, and there's another bromeliad, and then we got another bromeliad and more bromeliad. And then we got the house next door, which you see that little overhang right there, that's where they have their barbecue. So now they're wondering why they're paying for mosquito control. On top of this, we have a lakefront, which you're going to have probably Culex mosquitoes at the edge of that water. And if the management isn't treating that water for Culex mosquitoes, you're going to have mosquitoes there. So the challenge is now for 300 feet around this house, between 100 and 300, which is normally 2 to 3 houses in each direction, you're going to have a mosquito problem, and nobody can figure out why they're not getting control and why their pest control company isn't getting them control, and they're switching pest control companies, and they're saying, you know, that company stinks and this company doesn't do it right. How can you expect to get control when this isn't being done? Yep. Even an air conditioner can be a problem for mosquito breathing, as you will soon see. There is the drain right there dripping, and there is the puddle of water it makes, and they created a drainage ditch for it in the landscape. But as you can see, there is hundreds and hundreds of mosquito larvae swimming around in there. They're breeding mosquitoes in their own house by not doing this properly and creating some type of French drain where they use gravel to drain down far enough and creating a mosquito problem. I want to show you guys where we're doing mosquito control with natural in this environment. This is not a landscape. This is a jungle. This is the front part of the house. 40,000 square feet of land, or 40,000 square feet of jungle. They have the irrigation on every single day, which we had to still consulting them on that to reduce that irrigation, and we've already changed it, and they will probably go in and change it again. But as you can see, it's waterfront property, so you're not going to be able to do mosquito misting because you got a 10-foot barrier and misting. So we're doing 100% 25B with OV traps, and we're getting 98-99% mosquito control. We have the OV traps set up to catch with the catch master to monitor mosquito, and we have 2 on this property, and we found 6 mosquitoes on this property right now. And you can see how big this is. This is just massive. It's on the water. This is waterfront property, and we're getting virtually no mosquito. We're doing it bi-monthly. This is Hainer. Everybody say hi to Hainer. Bi-weekly, natural. And let me show you, we got the catch master, set up. You go through here. As you can see, this is very dense jungle covered with trees. That is actually a party barn, and we have here the catch master, and I'm gonna let you look inside. This has been set up for a month now, and let's see if we can put the light. There is no mosquito in this trap, virtually none. I counted 6 mosquitoes today after a month of it being set up in this, and I put it in the most dense area where the most complaints were about people being in that party barn and getting bitten. So 100% mosquito control in this environment can be achieved with non-traditional methods if you know what you're doing. You would never think that this right here would be a really big source of mosquito problems, but it is. It's got everything in there it needs. It's got water, it's stagnant, there's the leaves, places where the mosquito can land to lay their eggs comfortably on those leaves. And the problem with Aedes aegypti mosquito is that even if this dries out, that mosquito egg can still be in there for up to 6 months, and then the next time it gets wet, the mosquito larva will emerge. And that is the biggest misnomer or misunderstanding or not knowing that people have about breeding areas and mosquitoes, that unless you become fanatical about reducing the point sources, the places where the mosquitoes can breed, no amount of organic product is ever really going to prevent mosquitoes for you. So when you're switching products to natural and organic without dealing with the point source, will never really get you the control. Here's a flat roof on a 2nd-story building. It's not draining, there's vegetation growing here, and you're going to see why you're breeding mosquito larvae on a roof and why you have a mosquito problem down there near the garbage can. Okay, looks like we got spinach growing on a roof. Water is not moving out of here, and this is where you're breeding mosquito larvae, on this roof. I'm going through all of your plants, and you don't see a single larvae. These are the ones in the front of your house, and there's no larvae swimming in there. If you had a mosquito problem, there would be larvae swimming in those bromeliads all over the place. That means the product is keeping them under control. It's not going to eliminate them from your property, and I can't stop them from flying in from your neighbors. But, bro, there's not a single larvae. You can check all of your bromeliads, and you won't find any larvae swimming in any of those. Look at that. There's nothing swimming in there. And you would find those worms swimming in there. Okay, here's where I get to do mosquito. I got to go quick because I got a limit today. 48,000 square feet of shrubbery. This is where I get to do mosquito control today. 48,000 square feet of nothing but jungle. So we're at a park. There's approximately 10 acres here. And right behind me are houses, right across this park. And here on the ground is a point source. If we look inside, you'll be able to see mosquito larvae in that drain pipe that doesn't have a cap. And you'll see it if you get over here. You should be able to see mosquito larvae in there, swimming around all over the place like little worms. Those little worms you see are the mosquito larvae. So now people are paying a pest control company to spray, and they don't know why they got hundreds of mosquitoes every day and they can't control it. And it's because of that point source that nobody's looked at, nobody's seen. And that cap, that should have a cap on it. That's a sewer drain. See that little mosquito larva swimming around here, right there? Looks like a little worm in the water. That's a mosquito larvae. Look at all this water. There's probably thousands of mosquito larvae in there right now. You drain that, you get rid of your mosquito problem. If you want to control mosquitoes around your property, this is not a good plant to put in. This is a bromeliad, and bromeliads hold water right in that center where mosquitoes breed. So if you plant one right next to your door, you're going to be having mosquito problems because you're breeding thousands upon thousands of mosquitoes on a daily basis. And these mosquitoes travel, remember, from up to 100 feet from where they are born. So if by planting a garden like this, you're creating a haven for mosquito, not only for you, but also for your neighbors. So think about what you're planting in your garden, whether it's going to attract mosquitoes or not. Walking around the yard and you left the cooler outside. Well, there's organic matter. Stagnant water, organic matter. You're going to get mosquitoes breathing in there. If I can see if I can get some. Yeah, there's a wiggly worm down there. There it is. You see it wiggling at the bottom. You're breeding mosquitoes with your cooler. All this needs to be removed to reduce the mosquito population. No mosquito control service is going to get you a 95, 98, 99% reduction to where you're not getting bitten. The best a mosquito service is going to get you is about 80% if you're lucky in this type of environment. Is outside 2 containers with waterlogged, and you're going to find larvae breathing in there pretty soon. I'm trying to see a larvae. There is a little bit of organic matter, but you can't have stuff like this outside. You're going to get mosquitoes no matter what you do. So we're doing a mosquito control program for this client, and we come across this left in the yard. As you can see inside, there's mosquito larvae. There it is, the little swimming fishes. So if you have a mosquito control program, and we're coming here either spraying, baiting, doing into-care traps, insecto traps, it doesn't matter if your water is accumulating somewhere on the property and this is totally preventable, then you're not going to get a mosquito control. You're going to get a very bad reduction at best, and nobody wants to buy a reduction. In mosquito control classes, we call this mosquito management, where we're managing the population of mosquito because we can't eradicate. But if you have this in your yard and you're not draining everything in your yard, then you're asking for an ineffective service. You can't blame the company doing your misting service or your pest control service. So I'm going to drain this for the client. As I'm here, if I find a pot or anything on the property that has water, a plate or something, I'll turn it over and just get rid of as much of the water as I possibly can, because it helps the client in no way by me charging them every month $100, $129, $159, whatever that is, to control their mosquitoes, and they create a problem for themselves it's self-defeating. Here is the biggest problem you have living alongside the turnpike in Miami during the rainy season. We just had a huge storm come in, and now you've got miles and miles and miles of stagnant water where millions and millions and millions of mosquitoes are going to breed. So it doesn't matter who you have as a pest control company, they're going to come and spray your backyard for mosquitoes, and you're still going to have mosquitoes because there's no way they can control the breeding site. The breeding site is all along that turnpike. You see all that water ditching down there. Look at the mosquito problem that is inside, right in front of the front door. Why they have so many? They said, I'm walking inside, I'm getting eaten alive. They had a bucket of water, and look inside how much larvae is in there. You got at least 100 mosquito breeding in there. See that little mosquito larva swimming around here, right there? Looks like a little worm in the water. That's mosquito larvae. Look at all this water. There's probably thousands of mosquito larvae in there right now. You drain that, you get rid of your mosquito problem. See that little mosquito larva swimming around here, right there? Looks like a little worm in the water. That's mosquito larvae. Look at all this water. There's probably thousands of mosquito larvae in there right now. You drain that, you get rid of your mosquito problem. We're in a commercial business, a building. It's a huge building, and they have this little catch basin that is catching water. And this basin is going to do two things. It's going to breed mosquitoes on your property. So you need to have a pest control company, if you put something like this, to come and treat that with either a larvicide that is an insect growth regulator, or a product like BTI, Bacillus, which is a biological control, to control the larvae in there so they don't breed on your property. I'm going to show you why you have a ton of mosquitoes. Here's a fountain that's not being used, and you can see the mosquito larvae in there swimming around. They're producing thousands and thousands of mosquitoes just right here. So having a fountain like this and not working it, you're going to breed mosquitoes in your own yard. Second, you have plants that hold water. You need to make sure that none of these things are full of water. And let me show you over here another big problem. A plant called a bromeliad. And those plants hold water inside. So when it rains, there's thousands of mosquitoes being bred in there. And what you have is thousands of them. They're all over the trees. And you can see over here, you have these giant bromeliads hanging from, and mosquito larvae is going to breed in there because it cups with water and it holds it, and they're all the way up here. So in order for you to control mosquitoes, you're going to have to use what is known as an insect growth regulator to treat those water areas, plus an adulticide to control the mosquitoes that land on plants. A single strategy of just spraying with an insecticide or misting without using an insect growth regulator is not going to get you control. And the other thing is, insect growth regulators are UV sensitive. They're very sensitive to ultraviolet light. Having a sun hitting that when you spray it is going to only last about 2 weeks. That is the average lifespan of an adulticide. So when you're buying a once a month mosquito service, you have to consider all this. If not, it will never get you the control that you're expecting. You see it now, the plant? Yeah, tranquilo. Let me record this real quick. So you're getting mosquitoes on your property, and you don't know why. Let me show you. Bromeliads everywhere. Bromeliads here, bromeliads there, bromeliads there, and bromeliads there. Here's the problem. If you've got bromeliads, you're not only spreading mosquitoes to your property, but also every neighbor that's on every side of you, because mosquitoes, adult mosquitoes, will travel generally between 100 to 300 feet from where they are bred. And inside that plant is water. I don't know if you can see it, but there's water in there. And that water has mosquito larvae breeding all over it. So if you want a mosquito service, you're going to have to use what is known as an insect growth regulator on all these plants anywhere between 14 to 21 days in the summer to control the mosquito larvae population, along with an adulticide to kill the adult mosquitoes. But if you have this many bromeliads, Miami-Dade County is urgent that you remove bromeliads and do not replant them, because they are the #1 cause of mosquito on properties. If we look across the street to this house also has bromeliads. So every neighbor is going to have mosquitoes. See them there? So, you know, with you're planting these and you're not So if you're planting mosquitoes, you're breeding them for you and your neighborhood, it is highly recommended that you remove them. Here you have a garden that is the perfect example of what not to do if you do not want mosquitoes. You have bromeliads planted everywhere. If you have bromeliads, you need to be washing these out once a week or treating them about every 2 weeks to a month with an insect growth regulator. And then you have all of those. Over here, there's also these bird baths. Well, they haven't been cleaned out, and mosquitoes are going to breed in there because that water is stagnant. So the Aedes aegypti mosquito and the Aedes albopictus, which are known to transmit the Zika virus, Eastern everywhere, there is bromeliads in this garden. Now, you also have a lakefront home. So the Culex mosquito is gonna breed at the edge of that water, right around there. They can breed and drop their eggs and deposit them. So you'll have, if that lake isn't being treated by a mosquito specialist with aquatics, you're gonna breed mosquitoes on this lake. So trying to do a spray service here is really useless to try to control mosquitoes unless all these problems are fixed and addressed, because you cannot control this chemical wise unless you were spraying this about every 2 weeks with a chemical just to get a bit of a reduction. What most people don't understand is that if you have a plant like this, or you have a bird bath, or you have anything that is holding water, the Aedes aegypti mosquito that loves to breed in that type of environment, and the Aedes albopictus, will travel anywhere between 100 to 300 feet. To give you a perspective of what 300 feet is like, you will affect approximately 36 homes around you by having that. And the idea is you're looking all the way to the end of that block at the corner over there, and then you're going the same distance in the back of the home, and then the same distance that way, and the same distance that way, which is about 900 square feet. And that is what's happening with people that are breeding these plants without knowing how to properly care for them to not create the mosquito problem. And what you're doing is potentially for 30-something homes around your neighborhood, you're affecting people and you're breeding mosquitoes that transmit right now Zika, dengue, chikungunya, eastern equine encephalitis, and about 3 other more diseases that we have that will breed in your neighborhood. And we really need to educate people about how to properly, if you're going to own these plants, then you need to be properly treating them at least every 2 weeks, which becomes a huge expense. So you're better off not planting them and not endangering your neighborhood. Look at this. You've got thousands and thousands of mosquitoes that are going to breed in here. Okay, so they got these bricks all around the property, and they got huge mosquito problems here. This is a very, very densely populated landscape, and as you can see, there's water in there. Well, if you have Aedes aegypti or Aedes albopictus, you're gonna get mosquitoes breeding, hundreds of them, just in that one thing. And if you got this thing all the way around the property like they did, and they made this border out of brick, there's thousands of breeding sites right here for mosquito, literally thousands of them. And so it makes mosquito very difficult to control with these kind of problems. You have to literally spray this property every 2 weeks in order to get control, because the insect growth regulator that controls the larvae will not last more than 2 weeks, because it is very, very sensitive to ultraviolet light, and that's what destroys it. So you got mosquitoes in your front door. Well, you got to ask yourself, where are they coming from? If we look around this property, right here, less than 5 feet from the property, we have planters that have been left, and it's full of water. And if you look inside, you will see mosquito larvae swimming in there. See it? See that little worm? That is mosquito larvae. You're breeding thousands of mosquitoes, not only for your home, but for every home that's around this neighborhood for the next 20 homes, because the average mosquito will fly between 100 and 300 feet from where they are born. So ask yourself, where is the breeding site? Removing the water source, removing that water source is the #1 natural mosquito control that you can perform. We're so addicted to thinking chemical that we forget that if we remove the source, the breeding site, we remove the problem. You got a potential Aedes aegypti, a mosquito breeding ground right here. That's enough water to breed several hundred Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. And they turned it over. They did the right thing, because it's a dog bowl. They don't want the dog bowl getting full, but it still cups water. The idea is to remove it completely or throw that water out daily, because even if that dries out, Aedes aegypti mosquito can live in the dry after they lay the eggs. The eggs can live for about 6 months. That's the biggest problem we have in controlling Aedes aegypti, is the fact that it can, you know, if the eggs are in there, it dries out because of the sun or whatever, and then it rains again, those eggs can still hatch. And that is the biggest misunderstanding that people have about mosquito control. Oh, it'll dry out in a couple of days. Yes, it will, but you can still breed the mosquito even though it dries out. So you must tip it over, drain it, or just completely remove it. There's an unseeming mosquito breeding site that people would just walk by that and say, well, there's no way a mosquito is going to breed in there. It's in a pot. and the pot has no plate underneath. Well, no, if they put it in a steel one, and if you remove it, there's the water stagnant that's under there, and that's enough to breed mosquitoes. So you're wondering, we're doing mosquito control, how come we're not getting any mosquito control? And it's because you're still breeding them. So, you know, potentially that's a huge problem. Here's a fountain, and this is a common problem on this property. The fountain is not operable. It's not working. And they've done the right thing by treating that bottom with the bleach tablet, the chlorine tablet, same as you put in a pool, to control the larvae in here. But there's none here, there's none there, and there's none there. So if the mosquitoes are going to breed, they're not going to breed down there. You still have potential room, if it rains every day, for mosquitoes to be breeding in here continuously.